Hello, welcome to Invictus Porsche. We've got a Porsche 911 991 Carrera S, and we'll talk about why perhaps one should buy one of these, and maybe this one in particular, and why the spec on this one is special. And let's find out. It is phenomenal. And this is the beauty of the 991 Carrera S. Even without having the Porsche sports exhaust system, it sounds amazing. Please don't forget to subscribe. Whatever money we make out of YouTube gets donated to charity. We've got a big project happening in Afghanistan through this charity that we donate to, whereby we're building like a school and a learning center for the next generation to hopefully make that country better than what it's gone through for the past 40 years. Firstly, why buy the 991? Well, that's because of the kind of prices they are at right now. I think a lot of people are talking about potentially these being depreciating. I don't think so, purely because of the 997.2s costing upwards of £40,000, especially one with similar miles to this. Therefore, I can't see these going down in value because of the 997s. Now, additionally, the 991 Carrera S, which is the second reason, offers you a lot more for the money than 997.2. And that starts from the styling, that starts from how good it sounds, the practicality, and from how well it drives. So overall, you get a lot more for your money on a 991.1 Carrera S than you would on a 997.2. And the third reason is these are Porsche's last naturally aspirated 911s. That's just come out of their standard Porsche 911 department. Whereas the only naturally aspirated Porsches in terms of the newer Porsche are basically the GT4s, the GT3, the GT3 RSs, and the GTSs. So therefore, if you want something that is that is naturally aspirated, that is from Porsche itself, I mean, you've got something that is potentially very much a future classic. And now, on the fourth reason, we need to drive this, talk about the spec, to kind of explain why, in my opinion, this is a purist Porsche 911 with a spec, and additionally with what this has to offer from a performance point of view. Just to briefly cover the spec, this is finished in the beautiful Porsche Carrera white paint color, matching with the 20-inch Carrera Classic Edition 3 alloys. And spec-wise, this has got the Chrono Sport Plus package, the Sport Design steering wheel. You've obviously got the Porsche Active Dynamic engine mounts, which is an optional, and also you've got the Porsche torque vectoring system, so the limited slip differential. So all of this are highly sought after options. Let's drive it and discuss a little bit more of what would hopefully give you a bit of an insight in terms of buying one of these. So right from the get-go, in the 991, just being in the driving seat, you've got a completely refreshed and a brand new interior. This is from everything from the steering wheel to the buttons here, the PDK gearbox, the fact this is a 3.8 litre direct fuel injected engine, which is obviously tuned both the gearbox and both the engine to the 991 as opposed to the 997.2 is, you know, set up rather differently, because on the 997.2 on a Carrera S you would be looking at 385 bhp. On the 991.1 you're looking at just under 400 bhp, so you've got that additional 15 brake horsepower. In terms of torque, this does 440 newton meters of torque, where the 997.2 is 420 newton meters of torque. On 0 to 60, this can do it in 4.5. The 997.2 does it in 4.7 seconds from memory, 4.7 or 4.8 seconds. Now, this was the third time in Porsche's history, in the 911 history from 1963, that Porsche designed a car from the ground up. I mean, this was released and shown to the public at the Frankfurt Motor Show in 2011. Now, what can you expect other than, you know, just a bit of the history and the background to this is the spec on this. You put that sports button on and it is phenomenal. And this is the beauty of the 991 Carrera S. Even without having the Porsche sports exhaust system, it sounds amazing. And what is really phenomenal about this right now is I'm not even into the happy rev mode between sort of 5,000 to 6,000 RPM. This is me being between 2,500 to 3,000 RPM. And it's phenomenal that it sounds as good as it does. And the 991.2s, which is the generation after this, that mid-cycle refresh that they introduced in 2015, which is twin turbocharged, doesn't have what this simply offers and simply has, which is this beautiful organic sound. So credit where it's due for Porsche to revise a car completely from the ground up in the 991 generation, but also offer a car that is, in my personal opinion, so much better, not just aesthetically, cosmetically, but everything, from the transmission, from the engine, from what it's like here in the center gauge, because one of the gauges, so one of the screens here, out of the screens that you've got available here, one of the screens here on the second from the right is a digital screen. So as you shift through it, you're able to see your G-forces. You're able to use the chrono watch to record a lap time. It tells you, the coolant temperature, the oil temperature, the oil pressure, radio. You've got a digital screen also here, as you shift through it, which shows the map. So all in all, this is just so much more of a 911 over the 997.2. And in terms of values, I personally think these will hold their values so much more over the 991.2s that are turbocharged, simply because of what they're like to drive, how they sound, how they handle. And from a spec point of view, this has everything you would want in a 911. The sound from the naturally aspirated 3.8 litre boxer flat 6 engine is extremely addictive. You've got the Sport Plus button, PASM here, and there's another 2 buttons here, one of which is switches off traction control, and the other one is a stop-start button. You've also got the dual, the climate control here, and you've got the PCM, which has got the European navigation system, mobile Bluetooth connectivity, both for your music and telephone calls. Now, mechanical spec-wise, you've got the active dynamic engine mounts, extremely useful to have, and obviously this has the Porsche torque vectoring, the limited slip differential system from Porsche. So when it comes to cornering, this is an option to have. The LSD is an absolute game changer. And from a purist and a driving point of view, it adds a lot of value to how nice it is to drive these, and how fantastically balanced they become, and how well they corner, and just the attributes of it completely changes. So again, another really key essential spec item. And then in the seats that I'm sitting, this is the leather sport seats, which are 4-way electrically adjustable. And then you've got the xenon headlights, and it's finished in the beautiful Carrera wide. Again, just summarizing the spec on this. And you've got the, as I said, the Carrera Classic Edition 3 alloys. Now, with the fuel prices the way they are, I get asked, it's a 3.8 litre 911, what sort of MPG would I expect? I mean, comfortably, in terms of combined MPG, one is looking at about sort of mid-30s in terms of an MPG, which is really good for a sports car, because if you compare it to many of these saloon cars or family cars out there, that's the kind of MPG it gives you combined. On the motorway, I've been able to, in weather like this, I've been able to get anywhere from 40 to 45 miles per gallon. And practicality, from a practicality point of view, because the engine is behind the rear axle, you've got that 2+2 setup. The rear seats also fold, so it gives you more shelf space, and the front boot is big enough to fit me in there, or to fit comfortably 2 medium case, luggage, or the luggage that you actually take with you onto the plane to put in the cabin space that's provided there for you. So all in all, hopefully these are all the reasons you would need to encourage you or to convince you to buy a Porsche 911, a 991.1 generation. And there aren't many cars out there, especially sports cars out there, that can give you happy free motoring for 3 to 5 years and actually not lose money and have something that would either hold its value or possibly or potentially go up in value. I don't have a crystal ball in front of me to tell you that it's going to go up in value by 5 or 10 grand, but certainly the way the 911s have always been from a tradition point of view from 1963 is that you've got so many generations of these 911s. Therefore, how low or how much a car can depreciate before you've got the generation earlier than that, that's just going to keep the values of these that bit up, because you're like, well, how can this be worth what it is, because you've got the generation before that. So you've always got that at the back of your mind, whoever is owning a Porsche 911 out there. Now, I hope I've covered all the items that I wanted to cover. There's always more to discuss and more to talk about these, but I think for the time being I'd like to close this video on hopefully giving you some inkling or some idea, both from a history point of view, both from what these are like to drive, what they're like to handle, and what sort of a spec this has in general. If you are looking to buy this 991 from a history point of view and from a maintenance point of view, this has got a full Porsche service history, and it's only ever had 2 owners from new. So very low number of owners, which is very unusual for Porsche, because they tend to change hand either every year or every 2 years, and very rarely do they come into such low owners, and one especially with a full main dealer service history. And if you need to know, it is currently due a service, an interim service, which can either be done at a main dealer should you want to keep all of the service history at a main dealer, or additionally you can get it done at a specialist. My personal view is that get it serviced at a specialist, you end up getting a better service, you build a rapport with them, and over the next number of years, you end up being able to maintain or do any maintenance items that come up on these at a specialist, as opposed to a main dealer who just see you as a person. Let's not say anything, but with a specialist, you build up that rapport with these guys, and there are a few specialists that we work with, we highly recommend. In terms of the rest of the overall condition, I mean, this is in pretty much pristine condition. Just on the inside, it still smells like brand new, and it still has this phenomenal, amazing feel to getting in and out of it as it's just left the production line. And the one option that I forgot to talk about is obviously the PASM. You press the PASM, the Porsche Active Suspension Management, and it stiffens the dampers and gives you a much more firmer and a driver orientated and a driver focused drive. And before I wrap up the video, let's press the accelerator and hand the exhaust. That burble that you get from the revs going just above 7,000 RPM is wonderful. But thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe, and if you'd like to donate to the charity we donate, the link is in the description below. Thank you. See you the next time. Bye bye.